Sugar, it's a rainy day in Los Angeles, and I feel like rainy days are good for digging into a book, making some tomato soup with some grilled cheese, or just vegan, whatever you want, something cozy, but also kind of relaxing, but also sometimes digging in a book to dig deep. And so I feel like this episode with Riana Milne is a great way to kind of dig deep into Dear Mattie. Now, I know a lot of you listen to this show whenever you're driving and everything, and I think that's great. But I have to say, I feel like this is an episode, if you ever wanted to just kind of be somewhere where you can write down, take notes. I don't know if I've really had an episode, I think, that does this so much, but I think this episode with Riana is kind of the perfect episode for that. So to give you a little bit about Riana, she's a certified global life and relationship coach for singles. She works with couples. She's based in Florida. And when I say life coach, we talk about this a little bit. I feel like some people are life coaches and they learned how to get a good haircut and they're pretty good at I can't say the word, balancing their budget. And, they have 8-pack abs and now they're a life coach. This is not Riana. This woman is like, she's got more letters behind her name than the alphabet. And she really, and you'll learn, she's really lived her own life personally, but then studied so much. And she's I think the reason why she and I got along so well, and I for sure want to have her again on my show, is that she's curious AF. I mean, so curious and so wanting to just help people through her experience, through her own journey, but mainly through her training. And a lot of her training, I just want to give you a little warning, is about trauma. So we're going to be talking about some childhood trauma stuff. So this could be trigger warning for some of you. So I just want to put this out there. Probably not a family-friendly show, just in case topics come up that, or just be prepared to have discussions about those. So, but what I do love about Riana is she's like, hey, let's talk. Let's talk about some traumas. Get the workbook out. Answer some questions about yourself. Like, I'm telling y'all, we are going #dig deep. This is what I love about I mean, I just really, really enjoyed this episode. And I like this because I honestly feel like it's, I love doing shows that entertain. And I love doing shows that have a comedic tint. But I also love, I love doing these shows where it's a conversation maybe you've never had, ever. And I'll talk more about that at the end of this show. But sugars, this episode still stuck with me. So, and we recorded this about a month ago. But anyway, I'm going on so much, but I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to listen to my, she talks about it in the show, but be sure to listen to my outro. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a free offer that Riana has to help Dear Mattie listeners. If you're interested, you don't have to live in Florida. She coaches people all over the world. So that's the beauty of this. That is truly the beauty of technology now, y'all, is if you don't want to tell anybody in your small little Oklahoma town, or you live in Missouri and you don't want to tell anybody you're doing therapy and working on yourself, sugars, you don't fucking have to. You just do it online and you just make yourself better, and everybody else can just live their life and go to Walmart and have fun. They don't need to know. And that's what I love. So if you're kind of stuck in this place and you want to try this, literally, Riana's giving you stuff for free that you can try out and see if this is even something you want to do to coach with her. But seriously, I mean, even when I was listening to this again, editing, I'm like, I need to call her. Jesus, I got to sort out my own life. So I hope that you can open up in that way too. And Riana Milne, I couldn't have enjoyed having her on the show anymore. All right, sugars, that was the longest intro ever, but you know what? It's about your life. So there you go. Hope you enjoy. And we're recording. What? Hello, everybody. It's a podcast. Woo! We are doing it on a Thursday. I hope you're doing well, sugars. This is Welcome to the Dear Mattie Show. This is Matt Marr. I'm Sugars. Get ready. This is what I call a #truth talk, #dig deep episode, where I love doing this shit, and you can cuss on my show, Riana, so don't worry about it.
Good to know.
Good. So I'm excited. So I want to welcome to the show fellow therapist, this woman, Riana Milne. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course, of course, of course, of course. Now, we met through a mutual friend, Kara, and I think what attracted to me to having you on your show is, I'm going to ask for you to tell everybody a little bit of like what you do, but obviously you're a therapist, I'm a therapist, but we're definitely, if you're listening to this show, I just want to like preface and say this could be, I don't know where Riana and I are going to go because we have already been giggling before we started recording, so. But this is going to be a fun interview, but this also could be triggering to some people because we're going to be talking about some childhood traumas, which I think is something that we don't discuss really very, very infrequently as adults.
Right.
So I just want to put that out there for people that if you're listening to this show with your kids, hopefully you don't because I cuss like a sailor. But if you do, this might not be the episode for you to listen to with your children unless maybe you take a listen to it first. So I just want to put those kind of safety things out there for everybody because I love y'all. And so Riana, tell everybody that like. Just tell everybody what you're an author, you're a speaker, but tell everybody kind of what your focus is.
Okay. Well, I've been a couple singles and family therapist for 18 years in private practice. My company is called Therapy by the Sea. I was in Atlantic City area for 14 years and then moved down to Delray Beach, obviously for the lifestyle. It's gorgeous here. And then I went into RCI, Relationship Coaching Institute, because I really liked the style of coaching versus therapy. And I found therapy to be much better, faster, cutting edge quality of transformation for my clients. And I have clients of all ages, and I have men, women, younger, older, straight, LGBT. And as I was going through my own life, I found some situations happened to me that led me to some deep research. And, basically, I had found that my relationship was not what I thought it was. I married a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and his Dr. Jekyll, just like the show, the Broadway play, he's respected, loved, veneered, handsome, charming. And then there's Mr. Hyde, the dark, sinister, hidden personality type. And I couldn't figure out why he was doing what he was doing. And it was nothing I learned in my psychology master's program. I have a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology. And I dug really deep into this. And, I discovered an older term of ACOA, adult child of an alcoholic. And they were identifying, and his father was indeed alcoholic, but I thought there was really something more. And I did over 2 years of research and discovered more of the childhood traumas. And in 2014, the Kaiser Permanente group out of San Diego came out with some great research identifying about 18 what they call ACEs, adverse childhood events, that identify when you're young, if these occur, that certain then personality dysfunctions, habits, toxic behaviors come out, especially in your love relationships as an adult. So that's what led me into doing this. And I love the coaching so much. I discovered, oh my gosh, like the majority of my clients have this. And then the research shows 89.8% of adults have experienced at least one ACE, with many more experiencing 3 to 6, sometimes even 7. So when I discovered this, I said, I want to coach because I want to give a more supportive model. My coaching clients, Mattie, are so spoiled. They can email me, they text me, we meet by Skype, we meet on Zoom. As a therapist, you have all these rules. And they're not really set up for the benefit of the client's healing and transformation. And that was my number one goal. And I knew people of trauma needed a lot more support and needed answers when they were feeling anxious or depressed. So I developed these amazing coaching programs and a couple of books. Love Beyond Your Dreams is my number one bestseller. Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. And then the sister book is Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success. And then with that goes a 200-page notebook of interactive exercises that help me help my clients as they answer them. I know how to build the puzzle. And kind of long story
I love workbooks.
I love
Yeah,
working with.
they're amazing. And then basically, it's making the unconscious conscious because you can't change what you don't understand. So until they
Yeah.
understand why things are happening, then they can then start making the unconscious conscious and be more aware.
Well,
So it's awesome
Well,
stuff.
and I love that you explained. I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but I like how you just kind of explained. I think a lot of people get confused about what's the difference in coaching and what's the difference in therapy, and also too, I feel like
Mhm.
you're doing something different in that. Like, do you describe it as? Is it like a life coaching? Because I also too think that when somebody, and I'm just going to say this because I've met them. Um, uh, I meet a lot of people that are life coaches, and some of them are like, "Oh, I did a certification at like Joe Blow Institute," and I'm like, "Well, how
Right.
long you been doing this?" "Well, like 6 months, and I'm a personal trainer now, and all this." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And then, I mean, you're
Yeah.
legitimately you're because
Well,
I say this because
I
trauma is that people. If I just want to say this, if you're listening, if you're
right.
thinking about going to somebody to discuss trauma, if somebody is not, if they are not educated in trauma specifically, you need to find someone who
Totally.
is. So, what's the difference with
Yeah.
your? Because I feel like you're not the typical quote unquote life coach like we're kind of used to hearing.
No. Well, I was LPC, licensed professional counselor in Jersey. And then when I moved to Florida, I had to relicense, take more courses, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor.
Uh,
I'm also LCADC, licensed certified alcohol and drug addictions counselor.
Ooh.
Down here, it's CAP, certified addictions
Girl, you got
counselor.
all the letters.
I'm also, yeah, a lot of letters. CCTP is the most important, certified clinical trauma professional.
Yeah.
And then I also worked in the schools at all level with kids of trauma for many years, and that's a SAC, oh my gosh, student assistance counselor, SAC, student assistance counselor. And then I went to RCI 2009, one full year to coach singles and another full year to teach couples in both life and love. So it's all about the transformation for my clients in life and love. And it's a 50-50 program. We go into both.
Ooh.
And when you are coming from childhood trauma, you usually need some help in both life and love.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
that's a
It's
difference.
interesting too,
Yeah.
and I say to people, I have a master's in clinical psychology, so you would think that I would be well equipped in trauma, but not to go off on a tangent, Rihanna. But as soon as I would started applying for I was interested in working in trauma. But as soon as I applied to some of the internships, I realized that some things I wasn't equipped because that was not something I was taught in grad school. Working
No,
in
well, none
trauma,
of this was taught.
exactly,
No,
and
and
it's so
I have a trip.
um, it seems
Exactly.
so odd, honestly, because trauma is it's everywhere. Like you said, almost everyone, if not, I think practically everyone, has experienced some type of childhood trauma that professionals a lot of times don't know how to treat. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, my listeners.
Exactly.
Rihanna got me on a soapbox, but
Well, it's so true, Matt. When I went through that, I have all these psychotherapist friends. I'm there. What is this? What is this? Like, you just picked wrong. You're like, no, this is something deep. This is nothing I heard.
yeah,
This is nothing I learned. And I have a 3-part master's. I have a triple master's because I'm, psychotherapist within the schools and in hospital settings and all of that. And it's like, none of this was discussed. The closest I came to it was PTSD and mostly around our soldiers. That was
yeah,
it,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah,
you
because I
know?
think USC has a program. I've had some for that. That's supposed to be a good PTSD program that friends have done. But that's it. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That because especially
Yeah.
working with, just in my experience, like I learned more about. I volunteered for a suicide helpline for LGBT youth. I learned a lot about trauma there and
Mm.
how to deal with crisis management. But then also, really, I mean, especially working with queer youth, there a lot of, especially like
Yeah.
foster youth. It was beyond my scope, which is thankfully I'm living in Los Angeles and we could get support for that. But it makes me think of like, it makes me grateful for people like you in places that necessarily we wouldn't think of as like LGBT meccas where I would feel good sending someone to you because I know you could handle
Yeah.
what they've been through.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, on the TV docuseries I just completed, it's called Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40. There were 3 straight females, 1 straight male, 1 gay male. And they said, Riana, you'll have to take Scott. Now, Scott had childhood trauma. He grew up in a home where his mom was a pretty famous actress. And she said, nope, you will not be gay, because I'm in the Hollywood set. And then later, the unfortunate part there was he had a wonderful partner relationship of 8 years, and he was killed right in front of him by a car. God. So he was very stuck in moving on and trying to find love and date and open his heart and trust again, and the long story short is, of the 5 contestants, Scott found love first, and he's still with his partner 14 months later. So I'm so thrilled. And we worked through a lot of issues that he had from his past, which had to be worked on first before he could really open his heart to love. Yeah. And that's the important thing. So I have helped a lot of young people come out to their parents over the years. I used to have a talent agency. I used to have a model and talent company. So,
with that Jersey accent, you're a model. I love it. Riana, I love it.
You're hearing it, huh?
I love it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a Philly girl.
I'm going to Philly this summer for the first time. I'm so excited.
Oh, great. Philadelphia people, not only crazy fans, but we're really good, fun people,
the funniest I still do stand-up some, but the funniest stand-up comedians that were so inappropriate were always from Philly. They were the funniest.
Yeah.
But
you got to have a good sense of humor living in that big city, but no, we do have a good time.
You do. So, okay, I feel like if we had a glass of wine and 2 chairs, we'd talk forever, but I want to jump into some stuff because the reason why I had you on the show, again, is because I feel like, and I've noticed this in my own practice with clients, and they're just, again, it breaks my heart that, and it's interesting that you talked about earlier, like it wasn't until, here I am 38 years old, and it wasn't until about like 4 years ago that I realized that my mother was a child of an alcoholic, and it kind of hit me how much that you think, I'm 2 generations away from alcoholism. I never had that in my immediate family. But then I was helping another client their parent was an alcoholic, and I saw such similarities between the way they were raised and the way I was raised. And I thought, here my mom is not an alcoholic, but yet she experienced childhood trauma with her father going through it. And that so affected the way she raised myself and my brother, this kind of like people go to CODA for, or not CODA, but for Al-Anon and things for this mentality. So when I saw that I really think that I'm hoping what people get from this, it's like, really listen to this with open heart, everybody, open mind, and that I know you're going to talk about kind of some of the 10 most common childhood traumas that impact our lives as adults. Because we think if it happens in our past, that it was our past, but we are holding on to those things.
Yes, unconsciously we are. Yes, until we do this work. And what you just said, Mattie, was so important because research shows that childhood trauma does go through the generations. So until someone does the work, becomes consciously aware, then it usually does slide down to the children and the children's children. So we want to try and put a stop to it. So I'm happy that you're helping me to spread the message and get the word out there about what is happening in so many love relationships. So
how does this manifest? So what are some, and don't give your book away, Sugar, but give me, but seriously, give me, can we talk about a couple of childhood traumas that impact our lives now?
Yeah, I want to list them all. There's 10, and I'm going to encourage your listeners to get pen and paper and make 3 columns. The first column, just write me. If it pertains to you, just put a check mark. Second one is partner, the last partner you'll have or your current partner. And third column is parents. So mom or dad or both. And as I go through the 10, just make check marks if they apply. So here we go. Now, remember when you're young, you're very innocent, and trauma is something that occurs to you. It's nothing that you've caused, so it's nothing to feel guilty or shame about. It just happens to you. And over time, we just kind of think, well, this is normal. Most people said, I didn't have trauma when I grew up. I kind of had a normal childhood until you hear these 10. So the first one is addiction. So if your parent had any addictions, and I'll just name 10 common ones: drug, alcohol, of course, sex and cheating, porn, eating, hoarding, spending, gambling, TV watching, gaming. Now there's 10 right off the bat.
I was making some check marks on that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that's the first one. Second is verbal abuse. If you were a recipient of, you received the verbal abuse in either yelling, screaming, verbal put downs. No compliments is another one. So absence of affirmations, or getting the silent treatment when they were mad at you. Or the other one is witnessing the fighting and the screaming between your parents. Okay, that's verbal. Second is emotional, or third is emotional abuse and neglect. Now, we all mostly know what that is and different types of it. But even the research shows for single parents, when I was off raising my 2 daughters as a single mom, I sometimes at one period of time had 5 jobs. So they had to come home from school, let themselves in, get a snack, do their homework. Well, that's a form of neglect, according to the research, because little people still get scared walking to an empty home. So I get that, but it's not like we cause neglect on our kids. We don't want to, but these are just what the studies are showing. Okay, the next one is physical abuse, rape, or molestation. And physical abuse can, be severe beatings, or of course, sex or molestation. Any of those are rated a level 10 in trauma. When I listen to people I talk to, I ask them what traumas and what level severity, but that's always a level 10, and 10 being the worst and 1 being slight. Okay, the next one, this is a popular one, abandonment. And there's 2 types of abandonment. There's fault and no fault. So in no fault abandonment, 3 examples would be if your parent happened to die early. A second one, if your parent went off to war. A third one, if your parent travels a lot, because that's how they supported their family. Now, I didn't think I had any abandonment. Then I heard this and I thought about it. It's like, wow, my dad we didn't know, but he was CIA and FBI. So my dad was like James Bond. And I remember as a little girl saying to my mom, when's dad coming home? And she goes, I don't know, like kind of in disgust. And I'm like, why don't you know? Where's my dad? And we were very close. I loved when my dad was home. But, that was just something I look back now and I said, well, that's a no fault abandonment piece for me. So here's, right. So a fault abandonment is if there's a divorce situation, your parent goes away and there's a lot of promises made and not delivered, or I'm going to see you next weekend, or I'll pick you up. They're late. They don't keep their promise. They don't see you as much as they should. That's a fault because they could have controlled that. Okay, next one. If you were part of adoption, if you were adopted, part of foster care, or you went to live with other adults, whether they were relatives, family, friends, or even neighbors. Like I have a client right now, she goes, I chose to live with another family to get away from my parents fighting. So that would be a situation for that one, number 6. Number 7 is probably the most common one. This is called personal trauma. This includes bullying, not fitting in, not feeling good enough, not being part of the cool crowd, having a medical condition when you were young, if you were overweight and teased at school, if you were underweight and gawky and teased at school, this is a big one. I had a beautiful African-American girl in my office. She goes, no, my family was great, blah, blah, blah. And I hit that one. She goes, oh my God, that's it, Riana. She goes, I was the only Black girl in an all white school, never fit in, no one accepted me. I was never good enough. And how'd that play out in her adult relationships? She was always jealous and thought her boyfriend wanted somebody else, and she was gorgeous.
Wow.
Okay, so that happens a lot with the personal trauma. Number 8 is sibling trauma. So most often, this is if you perceive your sibling to be the golden child. They were either more athletic, more handsome or beautiful, more intelligent. Somehow they got more accolades from mom and dad. That's the most common. Another one could be your sibling bullied you and was really nasty, or they might have been born with a medical condition or developed one as a teenager, which gave mom and dad more attention to them versus you. Mm-hmm. Next one. Now, I pulled from the later list. Like I said, there's 18 traumas. I only discussed 10 due to time. But number 9 is family trauma, and I'll describe those, and then I'll tell you the other one I put there. Family trauma would be as if a parent was incarcerated, if you grew up in lack or poverty. There was a lot of moves, like our military families have to move every 4 years, thus putting the kids in a new school every 4 years, which is very hard for a kid growing up. Losing a home by flood, fire. Oh my gosh, look at all the natural traumatic events that happened since July. Our hurricanes, Puerto Rico, floods, fires, mudslides, constantly. And then I put in there community trauma, because look at all the mass shootings that are going on.
Yeah.
And we just had another one in Florida, Valentine's Day. So sad. And and I was out in Las Vegas giving a speech there for their mass shooting, around trauma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is happening all over our world. An example, I have a client in Lebanon. Like I said, I'm a global coach. I work with people all over the world. And she said, Riana, I grew up every day not knowing if I was going to wake up the next day, if a bomb was going to hit us and we'd be dead, because she grew up in an active war. So the world trauma is getting worse and worse. These numbers.
Oh, yeah, I just read that mass killing they had in Syria like this past week. It was horrible.
Oh, God. Yeah. So we have one more. And this is if mom or dad had a mental illness. And back in my day, they didn't diagnose mental illness.
No,
of course,
they did not.
Parents did not want to go to counselors. It was so funny. You'll laugh at this. In 8th grade, I said, Mom, I want to go to a counselor. And she goes, nobody in my family will be a counselor. And I said, well, then I will grow up and become one. And yes, I have.
Go, mama.
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
So the mental health, the 2 most severe ones, or borderline personality. And for the listeners, I describe that as fast trigger anger, black and white moods. Like one day they're happy and then the next minute they're sad or angry, and you never know what you're going to get. So you're always walking on eggshells around a borderline person. When they're great, they're wonderful. When they're bad, they're horrid. And then the bipolar, which is manic depressive, real happy highs, and then real low depressions or anger or exhaustion as all forms of depression. So those are 10 of the traumas.
There's many more, many. And I just want to say too, for listeners, and so if you're listening to this, I'm just going to be totally transparent about kind of how I'm feeling and listening to that list. And I'm from I had a quote unquote pretty good childhood, 2 very loving parents and all that good stuff. But still, in listening to that list, I'm a little bit like, whoa, there's been a lot of things that I never thought about in my life that have been traumatic for me. And so I just want to tell people, if you're listening to this right now and you might feel a little bit like a little heavy right now, I would want to imagine that's probably very common and normal for a lot of your clients, Riana, when they first kind of come to you, because it's like, whoa, I didn't realize kind of a lot of the trauma that I had.
Yeah, when they first hear the list, they're like, wow, yeah, okay. And they just kind of blew that off as I had a normal childhood. And then, like I said, when they hear the list, it's like, wow, I had 6 of those or 7 of those.
I relate to that, yeah.
Yeah. And then when we dig deeper, the bullying comes out, or feelings of abandonment, and, other things. But that's very common. And this is why I work very closely with my clients and give them a real VIP experience, because it's fragile, and we're digging in deep into that. And then there's forgiveness and all kinds of different techniques that I use to help them get beyond the trauma and make the unconscious conscious. So the next part, Matt, that could be really interesting for your people is, okay, here's the 10 traumas, but how do they come out as an adult? Like, what am I looking for?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I'm interested in I'm super interested actually, because you hit on, I mean, I wanted you to talk about the one you had in mind, but I know that I'm super interested also too in, I feel like I love that you brought up neglect, because I don't think people talk about, when they think of neglect, they think of, your parents, put you, or your caretaker puts you in a room and doesn't give you food for a week, like those horrible
Right.
cases we hear.
Horrid
Like,
stories,
but
right.
that's not, the more and more I work with clients, I see kind of just the day-to-day neglect that I think people don't even realize kind of adds up.
Exactly. I mean, even people on social media or on the computer and not reading to their kids today or watching TV and, really giving your children good quality time is so important.
That's a good point.
And yeah.
So let's dig in with some of these. Like, so how kind of do they affect us now as adults?
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about someone who lies. Okay.
I could have popcorn.
And a lot of time,
by the way, this is so fucking interesting for me. So I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, yes, we could talk all night. So someone who lies and you say, oh my gosh, you don't even have to lie about that. Why are you lying all the time? This is someone that uses lies and all this was used as coping and survival mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say a little boy came home with an F on his test and, he knew he was going to get beat that day. He tried putting into an A. Dad fell for it. He didn't get beat. He found out, wow, lying works. So lying became a survival tool. Now, also charm and manipulation. This happens when someone didn't feel good enough. They didn't hear enough compliments, or they were said, your opinion doesn't matter, or you'll grow up to be no good. These kind of really bad negative comments.
Mm-hmm.
And this little boy may go into school and have a female teacher and start schmoozing her. Now he becomes a teacher's pet. And he feels love and attention. So he learns manipulation and charm works. Now let's talk about the comedian. This could be a sore point.
No, I saw already on that last one. I'm like, I was a charm.
Here it comes.
Jesus, Rihanna, go in.
All right. So the little person that uses humor is looking for that love and accolades and friendship by using humor and being funny. Mm-hmm. So, they may not have gotten a lot of attention at home, and maybe that you did, Matt. You said you had great parents, so that's awesome. But it's usually something to get some kind of attention because you feel different or you don't feel like you fit in. But comedy, everybody likes. So if you're the comedian, you get, popular, or, you get a lot of friends because people love the funny person.
No, I think that's so well. And also I want to tell people, when you're thinking about childhood trauma, this isn't just about, because you already brought this up. Like, I love that you talk about community trauma. Like, I think about, my boyfriend, my partner, he's a dark-skinned African-American man. So the type of community trauma he had as, my parents, my parents never sat me down and told me when I was 16 what to do if a policeman pulled me over. I didn't get that talk.
Yeah.
So and when you see with like my heart went out to with Black Lives Matter, that some Black people felt very uplifted, but then they saw the backlash from that. That is traumatic for them as well. I'm not saying politically what's right. I'm just saying how it affects people. So, but in listening to this, I want to tell people, try not to think that just the trauma that happens to you, I had two great parents, but kind of one thing, just being transparent, that was traumatic. And I've talked about this a lot on my show and in speaking and stuff. What was often traumatic for me is that my parents were so supportive and kind of, you can be whatever you want to be. But then when I started going to school and being an effeminate boy that loved Wonder Woman, I started seeing that was not that's when I started to experience the trauma, because the community had this storyline that I didn't fit in. So I just want to tell people that if you're thinking, well, I don't these things, I'm not saying look for problems in your life, but I am saying look at the trauma, and that, your immediate family might have been great, but going to school or your church or wherever, those things could have been stressful for you. Sports team, whatever.
Yep. And this is where jealousy can come in. If you had a lot of that trauma number 7 of the bullying or not feeling like you fit in or good enough or macho enough, whatever, this is where the jealousy often comes out. Because unconsciously,
that so much of my friends, but I was just talking to a girlfriend the other day who's in a relationship with a guy, and she there's this, I'm going to talk to her about this now after, I'm going to look you up, because she's where I always say to her, just as, I do a little bit of CBT where she's like, well, I think he's doing this. And I'm like, where's your evidence for that? What's the evidence?
That's right.
And she doesn't have it. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
well, then this is something about you that's triggering why you don't trust your boyfriend.
Yes, and it is. These people are full with a lot of negative, fearful thoughts. 8 out of 10 thoughts of the most of average people are negative. We retrain that to make it 8 out of 10 positive, and when a negative one pops up, you correct it right away. It's a whole lot less common. So yeah, so that all comes from that, not feeling good enough, holding on too tight, being too jealous. And then, you hold on so tight that you actually push your partner away. And then you say, see,
Yeah.
so it's sabotaging. There's a lot of sabotage here. Here's a common one for women, people pleasing. This could have been the little girl that grew up with the alcoholic mom, and mom was in a bad mood and woke up bitching, and it's like, okay, don't worry, I got the kids. She makes the lunches for school. She gets the kids ready, and she learns if she pleases, nobody will yell at her. So as a woman, it's hard for them to say no. They often overdo for others, making them angry and resentful and exhausted. And this is basically used to help raise their self-esteem, to make them feel worthy. And this was learned unconsciously. If I do this, I will be loved.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
What is,
Yeah.
this is, I'm going on for a little bit of a tangent in that I've had several people that have written into me over this, you talking about this triggered it for me, that did the people pleasing thing, and they wrote into the show. I thought it was, how like the university, it was literally like 3 questions came up the same month, and they all had narcissistic fathers. And
yes.
So what kind of, so just, I'm asking for them, because I know 3 different people wrote me, maybe they're hopefully still listening to the show, of what kind of traumas show up for kids dealing with a narcissistic parent. And when I say for people listening, I mean like a classic, like a truly narcissistic parent, not just self-involved.
Okay. Yeah, we want to look at the opposite sex parent. So a child that grows up, looking for a male, or a man looking for a male partner. How is the father? And unfortunately, chemistry pulls you to the dysfunctional parent for the sex that you're interested in.
I agree.
So if you're a woman and you want a guy, and your dad was like overbearing and all about him, and you'll do it as I say, unfortunately, your chemistry is going to be attracted to the same kind of guy. And then you're like, God, I married my father. Or you hear, different person, different person, same face, or just the same type of person over and over and over again, in a partner. So yes, when you have that type of difficult father, demanding, controlling, you will tend to pick the same type in your partner.
And I imagine it probably promotes you to be, because I feel like sometimes narcissistic, that what's interesting with all of these is that there's really not just one. So if you're dealing with addiction or you're dealing with narcissistic parent, then you're probably also dealing with neglect, and you're probably it's just, it lists on and on.
It's an interesting puzzle, Mattie. It really is, so everyone has their own puzzle. And, then that's when it's up to me and then us together as a team to unscramble this and be really consciously aware of what's coming up when it comes up, and notice it and then correct it. And that's how we eventually get out of that cycle of the unconscious overriding the conscious smart decisions. So that's another one, is impulsivity. That's one of the most dangerous sign, making risky choices, destroying your relationships, hurting your partner, being passive aggressive, doing something totally because you want it and don't even think if your partner's going to be hurt by it. And that's impulsivity, hurts relationships a lot, and it's this form of entitlement, or I didn't get this as a kid, I want it now, kind of feeling. Yeah.
Riana, I'm already having you on the show again. I love you so much.
Good.
So I'm interested, so it's for people listening to this and they say, pardon me, and they're saying, okay, wow, holy shit. I'm checking off boxes all over. But now they have children or teens that are beginning to date and start to do all that. Like, what are some steps that parents can take as far as, raising their children to kind of break these patterns.
Okay. Well, first of all, the parents have to get healthy. I hate when a parent drops a kid off at my office and say, fix my kid. And I said to the child, you know what? You can wait right there. I'm going to take mom and dad in the first whole sessions with the parents.
Oh boy. Amen to
Because
that. Amen.
you're right.
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys, if you're parents, but I got to figure out what's going on between the couple, why the child is acting out, because there's always a reason.
Yes. Or you'll have the couple where the man or the woman, like at a couple that once the woman was like, they came to therapy. I'm like, why are you here? She's like, you need to fix him. But yet she didn't want to do any individual work or anything herself. And who do you imagine was having probably the more mental health problems? Not him.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So we all got to look at it for sure. Well, in dating,
go ahead.
Dating in general, there's some rules, and then I can go into some smart discipline for the parents.
Sure.
But if for your singles out there who are dating, and I don't care if they're straight or LGBT, this information applies to everyone, and that's why it's so cool. It's the dynamics of the trauma, not the sex or the age or, your love situation. Mm-hmm. So if you're dating and you're going to find like these relationships are like really loving and a lot of attention and romantic and passionate in the very, very beginning. And then 4 months to 9 months in, or when there's some kind of a more serious commitment. So that means if there's an engagement, you start living together, or a marriage, this is when the dysfunctional behavior starts coming out. So I'm going to name some of those. So if you are parents and you see your kids dating and you see them experiencing any of this, or you're dating and you're experiencing it, these are some of the warning signs. Overworking, overeating, overspending, or overindulging in alcohol or any other substance or behavior that could be addiction. Mm-hmm. Controlling behavior, abusing alcohol, drugs, sex to soothe anxiety, trouble communicating about their fears, anger, or needs, or shutting down completely, which is passive aggressive behavior. And this is where the communication is really tough. Somebody screams or yells or demands. That's not healthy. And they either learn that growing up, that this is how we solve problems. We scream at each other because my parents did, or they're feeling attacked or blamed. And very often the child of trauma will blame their partner versus saying, hey, we have an issue. Can we talk about this? There's a lot of blame. Another thing is, and you mentioned it, is negative false assumptions is what I call that of your female friend. She's feeling so much that this is going on. It's got to be true, but it's negative and it's false. Yeah. And that is coming from, there's a lot of lack of trust, a lot of fear. If one of the partners start engaging in a secret life, the power is in the secret, the power of control. And a lot of people live on the dark side. There's a lot of shadows, fronting lies, manipulations, conning behaviors, affairs, high addiction to porn, which is, not very loving towards your partner, any behavior not loving towards your partner. And then the last is that blame, or they can't apologize. They can never say they're sorry, or they do things that are really obviously wrong, and there's no remorse to the wrongdoings. And when this gets even worse, some people with close to 10 of the traumas could be sociopathic.
Yeah.
And no concern for another person's feelings. So, and do you know the Sociopath Next Door, that book written by Martha Stout, she quotes 1 in 25 people are sociopathic. So daters beware.
Wow. Is that a good book? I haven't read it. I've heard of it. Is it a good book?
Yeah. Well, I read so much, and I actually have close to 280 sources cut into my books. So that was one of them that I quoted. So and now you mentioned about parenting. What can you do to bring up kids to help them be more emotionally healthy and resilient? And I call this smart discipline techniques. And this is from a chapter in Live Beyond Your Dreams, where I have a chapter for kids, for teens, and I have one for parents. So there's a lot in there, but I'll just read some of the, tell you some of the more positive ones. Point out positive behavior. Make sure you're praising good behavior, not all behavior, but when they do something that's kind or loving to a stranger, to a family member, using manner words a lot around your children, they will pick it up too. The please, thank you, may I, you're welcome, thank you. Treating your children with respect. What you're showing, what you're modeling, they will turn around and do this too. So you want to do this from when they're very young. I break it down 3 age categories in my book, from 0 to 5, 5 to 15, and then 15 and above. So as parents, you want to present a united front. So whether you're married or divorced, and if grandparents are actively raising your kids, all the house rules should be the same and agreed upon, as well as the disciplines and rewards.
Ooh.
Okay. The next one, follow through. If you say you're going to do something, stick to it. Because if they find they can manipulate you, if you keep threatening, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it, well, they're going to keep pushing your limits. And this will be someone that does not understand boundaries as they get older. So what I did with my young children, I didn't mean my girls to be science experiments, but they grew up to be amazing women. I had 2 daughters, and my one daughter, Alexi Pano, speaks around the world. She's out there changing lives and putting water wells in Africa since the age of 20, and on 3 multi-platinum CDs as a singer and a host on TV shows. I mean,
that's great.
Tons of accolades. And my other daughter, very successful and out of the home also, both at age 19. So this is what I call positive parenting techniques. And I used something when they were very young called the STAR chart. And I read about this when I was pregnant with Steph, who is now 35. And it is, you get so much more positive behavior by rewarding positive acts. So that I speak about how to use the chart and how to set it up in my book. And then as they become teenagers, now it's an allowance chart. So when the kids want to go to the movies, it's like, can I have $20 for the movies? I would say, did you earn it? So if they earn it, now they take that 20, they go to the movies, they learned the value of money. Well, I could blow all $20 this one thing, or I could just get a small popcorn instead of a large and a small drink and have 10 left over, so they're learning the value of money. I also had my children working since they were young. One of them helped me in my model and talent agency, and the other one helped her dad in his restaurant. So they learned to work with adults and other coworkers. And it's funny. My kids knew all my models and actors, singers and dancers' names. They walk in, hey, how you doing, Marge? And Marge is 45, but they put together all the headshots and the Z cards. So, it helps them socially, and it helps them to know the value of money when they're earning it. So even if it's dog sitting or babysitting when they're young, whatever they can do, it's important. Offer choices. You can do choice A or B. Listen to their feelings. Kids' feelings are not wrong. And when they're in love, it's not puppy love. It's important. That's their first. Important. Oh, man. It's their first love partner. And it means the world to them.
And honestly, too, it can honestly feel, and I've read, that it can feel even deeper than adult love at the time, because, I mean, we have to forget that we joke about it, but truly, their hormones, their bodies really are in this heightened state, because this is all, it's like, a woman who's pregnant, who kind of feels in different ways, and sometimes just literally feels deeper because there's more hormones in her body reacting. And so that really was a big turnaround for me working with youth. It's like, really, in my head, I might want to say, this is going to pass. Come on, girl. But really, I agree with that. Really try to be present with them and respect, what they're going through.
Well, the other thing is their maturity level in their brains does not reach full maturity, emotional maturity, until 25, 26 years old. So they're not able to handle the crush that just dropped them for someone else or who cheated.
They're physically not able to do it. And I think that's what's important to remind people. They're physically not.
Yes.
It's like you're trying to tell someone to run when they haven't grown their other leg yet.
Exactly. And this is why when I say I work with trauma, it's not only childhood, but it's dating and relationship trauma. So someone could have had a really great family life growing up, but their first boyfriend at 15 might have been verbally abusive, physically abusive. And
Yep.
then, that's the first sign, was the first stage of love for them. So,
Yeah.
dating trauma, relationship trauma is all part of this traumas that I work with. So, being affectionate, show that you hugs and kiss and often say, I love you, praise them. I always say, tell a kid he's bad, he's going to grow up to be bad. Tell him you're so proud of them. He's smart and wonderful, and they will grow up to be smart and wonderful because kids fulfill your expectations.
They really are a sponge. I think for people listening that, some people, I've heard say, I worked with my dad some when I was in middle school and high school as well. So did my brother. And, a lot of people say, well, you should let kids be kids and they shouldn't work. And I understand people's ideology in that, but especially becoming a therapist and learning just how, not to compare us to dogs, but from this Pavlovian, type of conditioning, the younger that, it was very beneficial for me at a young age to work because like you were saying, like your daughters, if you think that when you turn 18 that you're suddenly you're going to know how to work with adults and communicate with them effectively, the chances of you succeeding in that are going to be much higher if you had worked already. It's a much harder thing to learn the older you get.
True. And then they're learning discipline from bosses. So they're learning to be responsible and respectful to other adults, which will come back to you as well. And I'm not talking like work them all these hours, part-time, just a little bit, part-time.
Just a little bit. It's important I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got off on a subject because that was just dang interesting and I was taking notes. If there's like one, I know what I was going to say now. So how do you feel like, oh my gosh, Riana, I could go on for like 3 hours. I can't believe it's already 45 minutes.
I know.
But so we're going to get to Chatty Mattie in a minute. And I'm getting both your books and I'm reading them and I'm going to have you on again. Cause seriously, I feel like you just gave an overview of our next year of conversations. Cause I think, what I was going to say is like, well, we could have a whole podcast just about the trauma of overeating, what that is. You know what I mean? Like we could really break these down. But something I'm interested in your take is just with, I have a two-part question. And it revolves the Me Too movement that's going on. I was planning on asking you, like, how is that affecting, dating now? But I also want to ask, just from what you've talked about, what has the Me Too movement? I'm very glad it's happening. I'm a big supporter of it, and but also too, just recognizing when you talk about community trauma, has Me Too? I know it's helpful in some ways, but it also is Me Too bringing. I'm imagining, is it bringing up a lot of community trauma for women and for men too? But primarily, we're talking about women with this that that we haven't been discussed before.
Well, we were brought up with such shame if something happened to us in that respect, if we were molested or raped, and it was like, don't talk about it, don't tell anyone. It was so shame-based. And, we learned just to keep quiet or not tell. And, this is what that whole community was wrapped around, it was shameful. And then it came out and it's like, and I really love that movement because, last night was a town hall with these kids from the Florida school getting on and talking to the NRA and the senators of our state. And, now they are saying talking up is good.
Yes.
Don't suffer in silence. Don't hide. Don't feel guilt. Don't feel shame about any trauma that happens to you. And when you become proactive versus reactive, proactive is trying to make a change. When you're proactive, it helps not only you, but your message and your mission is helping the world. And that's kind of where I'm stemming from with this childhood trauma piece too. What happened to me with that marriage was devastating. I'm like, I can either be ashamed and embarrassed it happened, or you know what? I'm going to go out and see if anyone else is suffering with this. And then the more I dug, I'm like, oh my God, so many people are. And someone's got to start talking about it and educating because we didn't learn this in school. None
Mm-hmm.
of us learn this, as well as what does the emotionally healthy relationship look like?
Mm-hmm.
What are we aiming for? Because nobody taught us this. And
No,
that's
not
all
at
in the
all.
books. And that's what I teach as well in my coaching. So,
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I had a guest on who he deals a lot with sexual assault, and he got into it because this is before Me Too. This is before Me Too really even started.
mhm.
But this is probably like a year ago that I had him on the show. But he was talking about, he got into it because his sister was raped when he was in college, and how
Wow.
how he talked about, he said, I don't mean to make it about me, but like this really was a traumatic event for our entire family, not just for my sister.
Yes.
He said, I dropped out of college. I couldn't finish college. And so he ended up dedicating his life to doing this. And it's interesting how, with the Me Too movement and stuff, how we have this shame of not talking about things. And he even talked about it. He said, just think about the movies and television you see. What's one of the most romantic things? When the guy comes in and without even asking, surprises a woman and swipes her off her feet and kisses her. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, we're so inundated with
Mm.
these messages that we even have a positive affinity toward.
Horrible.
But we don't
and
we don't
exactly,
realize.
what is chemistry? What are the
Exactly.
messages in our fairy tales? Let the prince kiss you, and then you're swept away and you're happily ever after. Like bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't
So
fall in love by chemistry. It's the worst way. It's the least safest way to find an emotionally healthy partner is by
that
chemistry.
I want people to hear that, because no one has ever said that on us. Do not fall in love by chemistry. I think
Alone. Yep.
alone. I think that is probably the best dating advice I've ever had someone say on my show. Just even if you're listening and you take away that, yeah, Rihanna, you know your shit. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, my dear. Oh my God, I love chatting about this stuff. I
No,
could do it all day.
I do too. And so, well, let's jump into some chatty, Mattie. But like I said, I'm gonna have you back on in a few months and have a conversation about this. So we will be talking more. But
Sure.
so jumping in though, chatty Mattie, number one, what is your favorite childhood smell? Or sometimes people do memory too.
Yeah, my favorite memory is the family vacations in Key West, Florida with my dad for 2 weeks solid. I had my dad for 2 weeks, 5 kids, the family dog in the station wagon, driving down to Key West and having our vacation there. So I grew up before Duval Street was Duval Street, and really love our family memories there.
Well, and
You
I bet the
know,
beach, there's that beach smell. You can
yeah,
as you're telling it, I can know what the beach smells like. So I know exactly. So yeah, it's all there. Now
yeah.
I would normally ask what the name of your memoir, Chatty Manning number two, but well, sugar, you've already written 2 books.
Well, I've written 5, but
Oh, 5.
my biography is Live Beyond Your Dreams. That one where the mindset for success, I found I had to use that many times in my life growing up. And then I taught my actors and models to succeed. And, I wish I had the childhood trauma piece because I would love to work more with models and actors, singers,
Oh
dancers
yeah,
who just really, a lot of them don't feel worthy of their success or they want the accolades of success so much because they've come from trauma.
that's most of my
But
practice is working with actors here in LA. So I
yeah,
definitely. Yep.
and I could name a few, but I won't do that on the show. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's my perfect client, because
Yeah.
I get the entertainment being a manager and an agent. I get that world and growing my daughter up in that world. So it just goes into how I handled a lot of difficult transitions in my life. So that was part of my memoir.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, chatty Matty number 3. What's the best piece of advice that you wish you'd taken earlier in life?
Marry later.
Well,
I told my girls
amen to
to
that.
don't marry till your later 20s because you're going to grow so much in your 20s. And I love having my daughters, but I had them at 24 and 25. And, your life is much harder because you have to. And then I became divorced at, 26.
Oh wow,
So yeah.
wow, you
And
really did it.
and I was single mom dad for many years and worked very hard to make sure that they were okay and had the life I wanted them to have. So I just wish I married a little later. Yeah.
But like you said earlier too, I mean, literally, your brain's not even formed until you're a quarter of a century, until you're
But you
25.
know what? Our generation was you go to college, you meet your
Yeah,
sweetheart, you marry. What a bad generational tip that was.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, or where
Yeah.
I'm from, a lot of people it was they didn't go to college, so right when you get out of high school, you're married in a month. I mean, just
Yeah.
18, but
Really young.
and a lot of them are
Yeah.
divorced now, sadly. All right, chatting
Yep.
Matty number 4. What day would be your Groundhog Day? So, what day was such a good day that you're like, I could do this all the time?
I would probably say vacation time in Paris or Barcelona.
Oh, you win. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I had some major beautiful times, and I love travel in general. But just the people, the sights, the history, the architecture, the food, the music.
the
Yeah,
Spanish
give me
men,
Europe.
the
Yeah,
Spanish
yeah,
men
yeah. They're all hot.
with your blonde hair. I bet they loved you.
Oh yeah, Barcelona was amazing. For sure.
We'll
Oh yeah.
we'll leave it at that in case your daughters are listening. So, last chatty Matty, when are you most inspired?
Actually, when I meditate every day for 15 minutes. All my clients do. It's really good in calming an anxious mind. But it's amazing what pops into my mind, like the next promotional event or something I want to do in business. So meditation, or when I write, of course, I love to write. I'm an author. And when I coach my clients, like I just love to see the aha moments and the transformation of my clients, the testimonials they write me. And if anyone's interested, they can see that on my website, rianamilne.com. It's just so fulfilling, Matt, that I can help change lives. So it's my mission. It's my purpose to take anybody's pain and transform it into a purpose and meaning and peace in life.
Yes. Amen to that. Rihanna, what I love about you is, again, and I mentioned in the beginning of the show, but I just love that because I've done just a little bit of it. I haven't even done what you've done, but all the hard work that in the study and the time, and I see all those letters by your name, and I know how many hours that takes to do all that.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's so what you're doing is so sensitive and so important, and the fact that you put in the time. I mean, it's you would think you would meet more, but you don't really meet a lot of people that are true experts that are really able to heal lives and kind of walk the walk. And so I admire that extremely about you very, very much.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you so much.
I mean that with all my heart. And so now tell everybody, you mentioned your website, and all these are going to be, the show notes are going to be, all these information is going to be in the show notes, everybody. But you said rianamilne.com.
Yes.
And that's RIA.
I have.
Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's spelled RIANA MILNE, rianamilne.com. And I have a free ebook. I think that will be very helpful for anybody that wants to go deeper with this subject. It's at its own website. It's havetheloveyoudeserve.com. And that's a free ebook, havetheloveyoudeserve.com. And I am offering to all your listeners, Mattie, a free 1-hour private session with me. It's a life and love transformation strategy session. And it would be great if they download the ebook first, read it, do the self-test on the childhood traumas, and then say, Riana, I want to meet with you and tell me a little bit about your story. And to get that session, you just go to my website. There's a pop-up there and it just says, tell me your story. And nobody else sees that email. I treasure that it's very private to you. Once I get that, I may touch base. We set an appointment and I meet you by Skype. And if you're a couple, I do that as well. I meet you on Zoom and I would set up the Zoom link for that. So I am here to help your listeners however I can. And please don't be shy. Please reach out and see if I can help.
Girl, I think you can. Lord, you help me. And I'm just, hasn't even done a full set. I'm just listening to just talk about kind of the highlights. Well, I hope that this has been, again, I'm already planning on reading your books, and I want to talk about this more just because I think that, like I said, you're doing great work. So again, if you're anybody listening that's interested in this, I'm going to have all those links that she just talked about. So rianamilne.com. I'm going to have theloveyoudeserve.com. I'm going to have that link up there. basically everything about Riana that you can see will be in the show notes. So be sure to go to that. And I'm sure that, do you tweet? Do you Facebook? Is that on there too? I know some people like that.
Oh, my Facebook. Yeah, I have all my show announcements on my Facebook page. It's Coach Riana Milne. And I have a ton of videos on Riana Milne, my YouTube channel, that could be helpful as well. So just subscribe and you'll get everything new that's posted.
Great. Riana, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is a true joy.
It really was. I want to encourage your listeners. I mean, it's time. Don't wait. It's time to have the life you desire and the love you deserve, and don't suffer in silence anymore. Reach out, get some help.
Please do. Well, thank you so much, Riana. And for everybody else listening, you know the drill. Do something for yourself and do something for someone else this week. And we will see you next week. All right, everybody. Bye.
Sugars, right? Did you have to pull over and get the workbook out and you were like, shit, Mattie was right. This is a dig deep episode. I'm definitely going to have her on again. I just feel like we could have talked about so many specific things for a whole hour. This episode honestly has really stuck with me in the fact of something, just to get personal, that really kind of hit home for me is that my father was one of those dads who worked all the time, and because he grew up really poor. And it still stuck with me how, and this isn't my dad's fault or anything, he was doing the best he can, but he was gone so much working. There was that when she was talking about the trauma of feeling abandoned, even from supportive parents that are gone working all the time. That was a very aha moment for me, because it's something that I'd never realized that I'd had. And I remember when my mother started to go to work as well after my parents got divorced. Then I had both parents that were working, and my mom was gone to Oklahoma City a lot. And it was one of those times in my life that even when I think about it, some things I remember, some things I think I tried to forget, because it was just, and it wasn't even like, I'm not like Precious or anything of this. It wasn't this, oh my God, I'm crying in a Lifetime movie, and I didn't even cry about these things, but it still was disorienting, dysregulating for having, my parents that, were there all the time, suddenly now doing the best they can to just put food on the table so I could eat. So I'm so grateful for it. But it's still, I think when we look at these patterns of what happened in our childhood, it's not about putting judgment on anybody of what happened. Sometimes, yes, in abuse and some really, obviously in those situations, yeah. But in other situations, it's not about that at all. It's just people are doing the best they can, but it still affects us in negative and positive ways, and to take any type of judgment out of it. So sugars, be sure to take advantage of that. Riana, she's going to be giving you a 1 hour of her time. It's worth $500, and it's to go over where you are in your life, struggling with your life and love. She has male, female clients, younger, older, straight, LGBT. You can meet with her. She does it by Skype. And she says if you just go to rianamilne.com, MILNE, and that's in the show notes of the show, right on the pop-up form, just tell her your story. And she said it goes directly to her, and then she can reach out to you and set up an appointment. Also, remember, she said that's totally private and anonymous. So no judgment from Riana. She wants you to have the life and love you deserve. So go to her website, rianamilne.com, for that offer for y'all for a 1 hour coaching. That is great. Also, don't forget that she has the special report, The Shocking Truth, why 9 out of 10 people struggle in life and love, and how to have the love you deserve. And that's at her website, howtohavethelevyoudeserve.com. She also says that on Thursday, April 5th, because I emailed her, I was like, hey, Sugar, what's going on? The show's going up, and we recorded this a month ago. So what happened? And she said she is doing a masterclass, Successful in Business but Struggle in Love. Ooh. Successful in business but struggle in love. Damn. Sorry. I don't have that anymore, but I did that for a while. Now I feel like I'm the other way around. The love's good and the business is, it's getting there. Anyway, sugars, I really hope that you enjoyed having her on the show. Let me know. Because I know you did, but let me know anything you wanted me to ask or any other questions, because I'm definitely going to talk to her again. You can tweet me at the Matt Marr, 2 T's, 2 R's. You can go on the DearMattyShow.com website. That's where you can ask your advice questions, sugars. You can also find me at Instagram at the Matt Marr. And y'all can also listen to me at TVT Time. Y'all know that show I do with Jake. We're talking about Riverdale and gay jokes and totally other random stuff. But yeah, sugars, and I appreciate y'all so much. I hope the week is going well. I'm just enjoying this rainy weather. Poor all my friends in the Northeast going through that nor'easter. Bless y'all. Let's hope this is the last one, because woo, Lord, I know God is good, but it's better when it's sunny. All right, can we get an amen on that one, y'all? Okay, I love y'all very much, and have a good week. Bye.